Hey folks, and welcome to the Camping Post and episode number 2 in our podcast series on two-way radios for emergencies. Why radio? This video will outline why radio is important when disaster strikes. We will cover radio basics and the types of radios and their uses. We hope this will provide a basic understanding for folks who are not currently into the hobby and may wish to consider purchasing your own. If you watched our intro video, you may already have an understanding of why you may want a radio and now wonder what type of radio. We'll get into that and more in this episode. Should you have any questions or would like us to cover a certain subject, please leave a comment on this video. And as always, thanks for watching, and if you found this information useful, please like, share, and subscribe. On to the video.
Why radios still matter? Or are they necessary? Why not just grab a cell phone? Well, cell phones depend on towers and infrastructure and other sort of things that may not be available in a time of crisis, be that human-made or natural occurrence. Maybe there was a giant hurricane that came through and ruined what little infrastructure was back up in the mountains in Appalachia, and you had no idea how to get in touch with people. What do? Well, you have radio, and radio is a great thing. It's a backup. Not a lot of people think about it much anymore, but we probably should, as a way of being prepared. So what's a good thing about radio? It doesn't use a standard infrastructure. It can be a point-to-point system, or if there are some folks who have repeaters that they may take care of themselves, they can build them or easily access them. But it is part of an infrastructure that has to be maintained, so it needs to be still operable in the case of some sort of a disaster. But it does have a point-to-point connection that you're not going to have with cell phones if the system is down. A lot of folks talk about these radios that go all the way across the country, and I don't want to mention any names, but they rely on an LTE system. That's a system that is on cell phone towers. So if you don't have cell phone towers, they're not going to work. So yeah, that's a great form of radio, but when it's all digital and requires an infrastructure, you're not going to be alone, or you're going to be left out alone, I should say. So you're going to be left with radios. What kind of radio do you have? There's different types of radio. CB, a lot of people know CB. FRS, which is the Family Radio Service. A lot of folks know that because those are the blister pack radios that you buy at the big box store when you're on your way to vacation with the family. GMRS, you might be a little bit more familiar with that. It's some of the same channels that FRS uses, but you're allowed to use a little bit more power on those channels. There's a few other differences that we can get into. We'll get a little deeper into it. And then you have ham radio. A lot of people know hams. You think about the guy out in the country who's got all the antennas on top of his house, and you think he's talking to Mars, and maybe he's got a tinfoil hat on, or what are you doing with that? But it's all different amounts of what do you want to do with the radio in your group, in your hobby, in your community. What frequencies are you used on? Radio operates on different frequencies, which are measured in megahertz. So that's the different frequencies. That's all the technical stuff that you can get to. Different radios have different power ratings, which is going to equate to signal strength. Signal strength is going to equate to a farther range. Additional antennas are going to allow for farther range. And whether or not they can be used in a simplex mode, which is radio to radio, or if they're going to be used in a duplex mode, which is typically a repeater, which can be anything from a couple radios hooked together to extend your signal to a big tower with a lot more power. A lot of people are familiar with CB, that's Citizens Band Radio. That's what folks use to talk to truckers going down the road. They really are best for short-range communications, maybe vehicle to vehicle. If you're using something in going down the road in a caravan, maybe you're going off on a dirt trail. CB might be just what you need. It's got a good amount of power for the short amount of distance that you're allowed. There are no repeaters on CB, and it's really only voice data, so it's person to person. So, like I said, there's no license or test for that. It's very common and standardized, works well with vehicles. There's a large existing user base, not in all areas. And some folks up in the West Coast, up and down the highways out there, there's some crazy stuff that they're doing with CBs out there. But in general, a lot of folks are using, are not using CB, maybe using GMRS or ham in their rigs anymore, because they want further, more reliable communications. Some are just using their cell phone. FRS, like I mentioned before, is the family radio service, and those are the bubble pack radios that you'll get. These are great for going on vacation, being at home base, and heading out to the beach or down to the lake or not too far away. It doesn't have a removable antenna. That's one of the main deals with FRS radio, is that it has to have a certain amount of low watts, and the antenna cannot be removable. That's one of the things that makes it an FRS. Great for a family vacation, like I said, out on the lake, down to the beach, that sort of situation. Relatively short operational with the FRS because you're limited in power. It's very similar to the GMRS network. GMRS is the General Mobile Radio Service, and it's a land mobile UHF-based radio service in the United States. And you are authorized to use it for personal and some businesses and short-distance two-way communications. It does require an FCC license to use an actual GMRS radio, and that covers the user and their immediate family for 10 years. It's basically just a fee to operate on those bands, but by using that, having your license, you do get to use other people will often, if you are a licensed operator, allow you to use their repeaters to get your signal out. And there are GPS or GMRS groups out that are have servers in locations and repeaters in locations that are used in redundancy for their group members. Like I said, they operate in UHF frequencies. It is licensed, but there are fixed channels. There are specific channels that are related to frequencies, and it does support repeaters. Your handhelds are only 5 watts. That's part of your GMRS. You get 5 watts on a handheld. Mobile units, which are going to be what you would put in your car, are going to be up to 50 watts. So when you use those in conjunction with each other, you can really get some effective radio. It's very practical. It's clearer audio than a CB, and it has a smaller antenna than CBs, and they work great in again, works great for family communications, camp groups, convoys. A lot of folks will use them with off-roading, because you can have someone in a vehicle and someone outside spotting a vehicle, and you get a lot of good, clear communication that way. After that, you get up into the ham frequencies. You start getting into your ham handhelds, and this is going to be the sort of thing that's going to require testing. It's going to require licensing, and that's going to require some time and a commitment. And that's going to get you up into some other frequencies. It's going to allow you a lot of different things that you can do in the digital frequency. You get to use HF, VHF, UHF. That's high frequency, very high frequency, and ultra high frequency, which are different bands in your radio. You get to use voice, data, GPS positioning is often used, and now with more modern radios, there's more of that available. Your handhelds get 5 to 8 watts of output, and your mobile and base can be from 25 up to 100 plus watts, depending on what you're doing. It is the longest range when you get into your ham radio. Massive flexibility, strong emergency response networks. You are limited by what you're supposed to do with your licensing, but if you're willing to go down that, it definitely is more complexities, more things to learn. You can do text messaging, share your locations, you can get encrypted communications that way. I'll get a lot of people that will often say things like, why do I want to get a license, or what am I doing for a license? And it's very important for people to think about it, not in so much of, well, it's an emergency, I won't need a license, but think about it during the times of a non-emergency when you should have a license. It's a license to learn. So in times, when times are good, you're able to have your license, operate legally, make sure you learn how your things work so that in times of trouble, you already know how they work and you're already together. The time for organizing and the time for mobilizing is in times of peace, so that when times are difficult, you're able to put yourself together and have your teams communicate properly. That's just a brief overview of some of the things in radio from GMRS, FRS, and ham.
Should you have any questions or would like us to cover a certain subject, please leave a comment on this video. And as always, thanks for watching, and if you found this information useful, please like, share, and subscribe.